Good morning. My name is David Ahrens. I'm the CEO of National Brain Tumor Society. It is my privilege to welcome you to the second annual Glioblastoma or GBM Awareness Day. Thank you for joining this nationwide virtual event. National Brain Tumor Society unrelentingly invests in, mobilizes, and unites the brain tumor community to discover a cure, deliver effective treatments, and advocate for patients and their care partners. This is our mission. First, I want to recognize all the healthcare providers, regulators, policymakers, administrators, research leaders, family members, companies, and most of all, patients who continue to demonstrate courage and caring during the COVID crisis. We are immensely grateful for the bipartisan and bicameral support of Congress this year for the Glioblastoma Awareness Day Resolution to raise awareness about this devastating disease and encourage stronger resources for research into treatments and an eventual cure. Glioblastoma is a disease that all Americans should care about. It can strike women, men, and children of any age, race, ethnicity, religion, and background. To have such a strong statement of unified support from within Congress sheds light on this imperative for increased funding, education, and treatment development. On behalf of National Brain Tumor Society, thank you to our champions in Congress for their leadership and commitment to the GBM and brain tumor community. Thank you to Senator Graham, an ardent supporter of GBM patients who spearheaded the 2020 as well as the 2019 GBM resolutions. Senator Graham was joined again by Senators Edward Markey, Elizabeth Warren, Kristen Sinema, and Martha McSally, each of whom have wanted to honor the late Senators Edward Kennedy, John McCain, and other elected leaders, including Beau Biden and others, as well as all those around the country and around the world who have fought or are battling this disease today. Thank you. We thank them for their leadership. Our cause is honored this year also through a House companion resolution led by the tireless representatives Brian Mast of Florida, Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin, and Jim Langevin of Rhode Island. Each of these representatives has a personal story to tell, a reason why they believe this cause must continue to raise awareness for brain tumors like GBM. Now, I would like to also express our sincere gratitude to our partners on this important day for the GBM community. Thank you to IMVAX, Black Diamond Therapeutics, Novacure, Bracewell, Immunomic Therapeutics, Karyopharm Therapeutics, Casia Therapeutics, Society for Neuro-Oncology, GT Medical Technologies, Inovio Pharmaceuticals, VBI Vaccines, Yale Medicine Therapeutic Radiology and Yale Cancer Center, Cleveland Clinic, Foundation Medicine, the Colony Group, Moderna, and the University of Texas's MD Anderson Cancer Center. Thank you. Thank you also to the partner nonprofits that have signed on to support the 2020 Glioblastoma Awareness Day Resolution. We appreciate your collaboration and advocacy. Again, here is the problem. Every day in our country and around the world, a doctor walks into an exam room and tells a patient they have been diagnosed with glioblastoma. And that patient and their family learns that GBM is the most common, complex, treatment-resistant, deadliest type of primary brain tumor. This happens about 16,000 times a year. And unfortunately, patients today will receive essentially the same dire prognosis as those diagnosed decades ago. GBM in adults and pediatrics takes so much from those who are affected, patients, families, caregivers, and loved ones. In the face of glioblastoma diagnosis, families rely on love, hope, and the promise that research is advancing toward a cure. Every patient and family is different, and each with their own journey, their own statistics, their own diagnosis, but all deserve recognition and action to defeat GBM. This is the simple but important reason why National Brain Tumor Society has named its flagship research programs Defeat Brain Tumors, and within it, Defeat GBM and Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumors, which have delivered paradigm-changing science over the last 5 years. And I want to thank these teams of investigators spanning 9 research institutions led by Drs. Al Young and Dr. Roger Packer the scientific directors of each respective adult and pediatric program. Glioblastoma Awareness Day is our day to build up the power and solve this problem. By joining with NBTS in commemorating the second annual Glioblastoma Awareness Day in the United States, Wednesday, July 22nd, every American can honor those who have been affected by GBM, better appreciate the cancer risk we will all face, learn about the everyday challenges by GBM patients and their families, gain opportunities to advance research and new treatments, and take action to make sure government and patient advocacy organizations and research funders like NBTS and others have the resources they need to continue to serve GBM patients, caregivers, and invest in treatment-focused research and patient-centric therapy development. Glioblastoma is clearly among the toughest cancers on the planet. The average life expectancy with patients with this devastating cancer remains within the unacceptably low range of just 12 to 19 months. It continues to be a cancer that not only affects the body, but it can affect the sense of self. There have been important progress over the last decade, including new knowledge about why GBMs grow, what are the potential vulnerabilities, new model development, improvement in surgery, the addition of off-label use of products such as immunotherapy approved for other cancers, the approvals of new standard of care medical device, and a drug targeting a mutation found in adult and pediatric brain tumors, as well as the launch of new innovative clinical trials such as GBM Agile. There's a lot more work to be done, and done fast. We have to get it done. And there's no better time than now to make transformative treatments and transformative advances in GBM patients and GBM science, with exciting breakthroughs on the horizon and happening right now in science and technology and industry innovation, a committed scientific and patient advocacy community, and our nation's war on cancer agencies, including the National Cancer Institute and the Food and Drug Administration, committed to progress. The time is now for a concerted effort to defeat GBM. National Brain Tumor Society understands that the narrative must change and must be rewritten for GBM patients. We also understand that it will not take one single approach to defeat this disease. At NBTS, our work is comprehensive, and our Defeat, Connect, Change framework is how we will strategically attack this problem. To defeat brain tumors through research, we will fund cutting-edge science and next-generation treatment approaches to catalyze development of new medicines for patients. We connect our community by empowering patients and families to direct them to resources they need to navigate their diagnosis and their journey. To change the status quo, we advocate and bring the voices of the brain tumor community to the table and improve public policy. Today, we have prepared a nationwide virtual program from the front lines of GBM, and I want to thank all of today's speakers and participants. We share with the American public the full story and reality of GBM. Getting involved today is critical. Action steps you can take today to raise awareness about GBM include sharing content online at #GBMDay will increase the research and power of our advocacy, help educate and engage the public in this, and raise resources necessary to advance research toward a cure. Please visit the ACT section of our GBM Awareness Day webpage and watch our social media channels for action alerts all day today. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to how we will all work together to conquer and cure glioblastoma and all brain tumors once and for all. Now, I am pleased to introduce Dr. Kirk Tanner, National Brain Tumor Society's Chief Scientific Officer, who will share with you some of the state of the science, highlight research updates, and NBTS's work and impact on GBM research to help enable cures to come about and improve treatments and quality of life for patients and families. Thanks to you all. Thank you. Welcome, Kirk.
Thank you, David, and thank you to everyone for joining and being a part of this GBM Awareness Day event. Your participation and involvement are fundamental in raising awareness and engagement across the diverse spectrum of stakeholders that are necessary to unite and to collaborate to make a difference in this and impact in this devastating disease. These stakeholders include people from both the private and public sector, government, medical academic researchers, clinicians, biopharmaceutical companies, both large and small, investors and entrepreneurs, and most importantly, patients and their families. It will take an integrated, collaborative approach to bring new medicines and treatments to GBM patients. But we are now collectively ready to do this. So I'm really pleased that you're able to join this broadcast for the 2 sessions today, as we have a really great lineup of researchers and innovators to tell you about the state of the art in GBM research and drug development. It's truly an exciting and transformational time in GBM research, as we're finally beginning to translate the groundbreaking science and the understanding of molecular genetics and complex biology to really break this long drought that we've had in developing new meaningful medicines and treatments for GBM patients. Back in 2008, a key molecular portrait of GBM emerged, as glioblastoma was the first solid tumor to be sequenced in the human genome, or the human cancer genome atlas. In the last decade, we've begun to capture a high resolution of GBM through state-of-the-art, cutting-edge sequencing. You'll get a direct inside look at this from 2 of our speakers, Dr. David Lewis, pathologist-in-chief at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School, who was the primary editor for both the 2007 and 2016 World Health Organization classification of tumors of the central nervous system. And then from Dr. Mariella Philbin of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Boston Children's Hospital, who will tell you about cutting-edge single-cell sequencing for pediatric high-grade glioma patients. Right now, there are right classes of drugs and specific treatments that are primed to be tested in GBM patients. These include immune therapies, or also called IO drugs, where the goal is to ignite and activate the patient's own immune system to attack and kill the tumor. While there have been profound advancements in apparent cures for some patients and other previously difficult to treat cancers, these have been really challenging to advance these in glioblastoma. However, recently, a lot of work is indicating that timing, combinations, and really training the surrounding environment around the tumor, of the different kind of cells, are critical to really activate the immune system. And Dr. Dwayne Mitchell of the University of Florida, a leading expert in GBM immunotherapy development, will give us an excellent overview of the state of immunotherapy in GBM, highlighting the advances and the challenges, and also the different types of immunotherapies that are being developed for both adult and pediatric GBM and high-grade glioma patients. Another promising class of drugs that are beginning to be developed in GBM are DNA damage response and repair inhibitors, where there's a growing stable of drugs, mechanisms, and targets that need to be married to intelligent clinical trial design and execution so they can be tested and advanced to GBM patients. Dr. Ranjit Bindra of Yale University, an expert in DNA damage repair and bench-to-bedside translational drug development in GBM, will provide a glimpse of what the opportunities and challenges are in this space, and also give a great specific example how understanding the mutational status of brain tumors and brain tumor metabolism may provide an Achilles heel to exploit with PARP inhibitors. This is a type of DNA damage repair inhibitor that have been approved for other solid tumors like breast cancer and ovarian cancer. You will further hear examples of the new dawn of the impact of how our understanding of the molecular genetics and the biology in GBM is enabling precision medicine approaches with drugs designed to cross the blood-brain barrier. Dr. Josh Allen, Chief Scientific Officer of Oncoceutics, will talk about ONC201 that has demonstrated promising activity in early clinical trials in high-grade gliomas patients, both adult and pediatric. And these are with a specific mutation, histone H3K27-M. And Josh will explain how this is shaping their development and advancement of this experimental drug and to try to get it to patients as efficiently as possible. And how this kind of a precision approach, finding the right drug for the right patient, is now a reality in GBM. Likewise, Dr. Justin Lathia of the Cleveland Clinic will talk about a targeted experimental drug from Curtana Pharmaceuticals that not only targets GBM stem cells, but may be able to reverse the suppressive environment around the tumor that blocks the immune system from attacking and killing the tumor. Another area that's showing really great promise and beginning to have a major impact in GBM is neurosurgical trials and neurosurgical research. Dr. Eja Endom of the NIH and a board member of the National Brain Tumor Society will give an enlightening presentation on the background and the latest in this important field. Another National Brain Tumor board member, Dr. Eva Galanis of the Mayo Clinic, will be sharing her unique perspectives and insights on the GBM landscape and what needs to be true in order to rapidly and efficiently move scientific discoveries to the clinic and match the right patient with the right drugs. In addition to having strong working relationships with the stakeholders, including the FDA, the NCI, and other regulators and industry partners and collaborators. Finally, in order to make all the breakthroughs and advancements that have been realized over the past decade meaningful, there has to be a better way to advance new treatments to GBM patients. Dr. Meredith Buxton, CEO of the Global Coalition for Adaptive Research, and her colleagues will be giving you an update on GBM Agile, the innovative, game-changing adaptive trial for GBM that allows multiple experimental therapeutics and experimental drugs to be evaluated simultaneously. And this is really gaining a lot of momentum with new sites opening all the time. Certainly, while there are still many challenges to overcome, I hope that these presentations and sessions gives you a bit of an insider's view of why there is optimism and why it's so important that we all work together collectively to move these new effective treatments to GBM patients. We at the National Brain Tumor Society are all in. We're your partners, and we're honored and humbled to work with each and every one of you. Thank you very much for joining us, and I sincerely hope that you'll come away from today even more motivated to make a difference. If you have any questions whatsoever for me or would like to have a conversation, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks again, and be well.
Thank you to the following sponsors for supporting National Brain Tumor Society's GBM Awareness Day event.
I'm Liz Buck, co-founder and Executive Vice President, Discovery and Translational Sciences at Black Diamond Therapeutics. At Black Diamond, we're committed to the discovery and development of small molecule therapies for genetically defined cancers, including glioblastoma. There's a critical need for novel approaches to treat glioblastoma. And at Black Diamond, we're exploring the potential for a precision oncology approach for the treatment of this disease. Today, on GBM Awareness Day, we all have the opportunity to play a role, whether through sharing a post on social media or writing a letter to your member of Congress, to help raise awareness and fund the research essential to improving the lives of those impacted by GBM. We are privileged to partner with the National Brain Tumor Society and honored to unite through their leadership and commitment to the GBM community. Thank you to members of Congress for their recognition of GBM Awareness Day, and thank you for the patients, caregivers, researchers, and partners for taking the time to share their stories with all of us today.
This portion of Glioblastoma Awareness Day is brought to you by Black Diamond Therapeutics.
My name is Latresa Dolman. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was the caregiver to my beloved husband, Chris Dolman, who was diagnosed with glioblastoma and unfortunately lost his battle this past January. I first took my husband to the hospital because he displayed stroke-like symptoms. When we arrived, they did a scan of his head and we found out he had a brain tumor. 3 days later, when they operated, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma. Throughout everything my husband was going through, he always remained positive, encouraged, hopeful. He kept his wonderful personality as he was always making everybody laugh and was the life of every room that he entered into. He loved to travel, and so we continued to travel and do the things that he wanted to do in life. He and I decided that we wanted to help other people in our current situation. And so we started visiting brain tumor patients and cancer patients in hospitals across the United States. He was able to speak to patients from a patient point of view, and I was able to speak to their families from a caregiver point of view. It was something that we enjoyed doing together to help be a blessing to other people. Glioblastoma Awareness Day is important to me because I feel that the more awareness we bring to glioblastoma, the more knowledge we will have. And the more knowledge we have about glioblastoma, the better chances we have of finding a cure. I am truly honored and humbled that the National Brain Tumor Society asked me to be a part of Glioblastoma Awareness Day. I love the National Brain Tumor Society and the many resources that they have for brain tumor patients and their caregivers. Honor, learn, act. I honor my husband and all of those who have lost their battle to glioblastoma. I learn as much information as I can so that I can spread the knowledge to many people across the world. I act by having fundraisers. I act by being an advocate for glioblastoma. I act by being a resource for brain tumor patients and brain tumor caregivers who are going through what I went through. Honor, learn, act. I am so thankful for Glioblastoma Awareness Day. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Anita Zucker from Charleston, South Carolina. And like many of you, while I'm pleased to be a part of the National Brain Tumor Society's program today, I'm really here because of a personal connection to our cause of bringing greater awareness to and finding a cure for glioblastoma. I'm also a proud supporter of brain tumor research efforts ongoing at the Medical University of South Carolina and at the University of Florida. I wanted to take a minute to talk briefly about an experience that my family and I shared. In 2006, my late husband, Jerry Zucker, was diagnosed with a glioblastoma. It was the most difficult time in our family's lives. We never expected that kind of thing to come into our lives. We just never expected someone to be diagnosed with something we knew nothing about. And so we learned everything we possibly could. And we spent 21 months together. I became Jerry's caregiver along with my children. And we worked really hard to figure out and find every opportunity to help him become cured. But needless to say, to this day, there is still no cure for glioblastoma. And I am very dedicated in my life today to continuing to search and try to find ways to help others that are dealing with this tragic disease to overcome it. And hopefully we'll be able to do that at some point soon. Today, I ask all of you to remain committed to the cause of fighting glioblastomas. And I must thank Senator Lindsey Graham and a number of his fellow senators for working very hard to create a glioblastoma awareness day. He did so in honor of his friends, Senator McCain and Senator Kennedy, and he actually knew my husband, Jerry Zucker, as well. But we do this today. All of us do this. We continue to fight to find a cure for all people that are afflicted with this diagnosis. I hope you will work with me and work to try to make a difference. And let's find a way to celebrate this day while at the same time make everyone aware of glioblastomas and the battle that we have to try to find a cure. It is now my honor to introduce Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. I'm Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, lending my voice to this cause. My great friend John McCain passed away from GBM, and I'm going to do everything I can in a bipartisan manner to fight back against this deadly disease. Anita lost her husband, Jerry. But I want to thank my colleagues from Arizona, my senators, Democratic senators, working with me and other Republicans to elevate the awareness and to get the federal government behind trying to find a cure. So all those who have been suffering from GBM, better days are ahead. God bless.
What is the GBM Awareness Day Resolution? A congressional resolution allows Congress to express a stance or take a position, including supporting, condemning, or observing an entity or event. The GBM Awareness Day Resolution designates July 22, 2020 as Glioblastoma Awareness Day. It was introduced in both the Senate and the House. It encourages increased public awareness of glioblastoma, honors those who have lost their lives to glioblastoma and those currently fighting the disease, supports efforts to develop better treatments for glioblastoma, and urges a collaborative approach to brain tumor research.
Hi, I'm Jessica Morris, and I'm the founder of Our Brain Bank. Today is GBM Awareness Day from the National Brain Tumor Society. And today we are launching the GBM Bill of Rights for all of us living with glioblastoma. What we're doing is critical because this is for people like me who need our support for everybody living with a very, very difficult disease. Together we can make progress against this horrible disease of glioblastoma. Together we can show how it's difficult for people living with this disease, and together we can make action.
Glioblastoma Bill of Rights. Glioblastoma is an aggressive, deadly brain tumor with no known cure. People living with GBM deserve quality care and the ability to make informed decisions. Now is the time for a GBM Bill of Rights. Developed by patients alongside our families and advocates, this is the roadmap to patient power and a brighter future. We, the patients, have the right to patient-centered care, an equal and collaborative patient-doctor relationship with personalized treatment that includes genomic and genetic testing and tumor analysis. The right to a second opinion offered at appropriate stages of diagnosis and treatments. The right to clarity of information, up-to-date, accurate information about all potential treatment options, transparency about treatment centers and their outcomes. The right to specialist care, access to a coordinated medical team, brain tumor specialist, neurosurgeon, neuro-oncologist, radiation oncologist, and others. The right to access to trials and experimental treatments, up-to-date, accurate information about new drugs, treatments, and clinical trials, including international options. The right to psychological support, comprehensive psychological help for us and our carers. The right to money-blind treatment, best treatment regardless of personal financial situation. The right to fast-track treatments, fast-tracked MRI results, treatments, and ER visits. The right to patient-owned data, ownership of and access to our health data, and the ability to transport and donate our data and tissue for research. The right to best end-of-life care, access to pain management, palliative care, and hospice. The right to brain donation, information provided to us and our families about no-cost brain donation for scientific research. Thanks to the supporters of this project: American Brain Tumor Association, Brain Cancer Project of Count Me In, Brain Donor Project, Brains for the Cure, Brain Tumor Network, Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, Fund Love, GlioNet, Head for the Cure Foundation, Muzella Foundation, National Brain Tumor Society, Stash Strong, and Tessa Jowell Foundation. This is an initiative of Our Brain Bank. Please visit ourbrainbank.org/rights.
Well, hello, my name is Dwayne Mitchell, and I am the director of the Clinical and Translational Science Institute at the University of Florida and the co-director of the Wells Brain Tumor Center at UF Health. One of the most exciting developments we've seen recently in the treatment of difficult cancers is the use of the immune system, or what we call cancer immunotherapy, in order to eliminate invading tumor cells from the body using a person's own immune system. Cancer immunotherapy has really revolutionized how we think about treating advanced cancers. We now understand that the immune system can, in fact, recognize that a tumor cell is a foreign invader in the body, and if the immune system is appropriately activated, it can be very effective at eliminating tumor cells from the body, even those that have spread beyond the original origin or site of cancer initiation. This type of treatment has resulted in previously untreatable cancers like metastatic melanoma, advanced lung cancer, and many others that were thought to be incurable to now have very reasonable chances of survival for patients that are treated with cancer immunotherapy. This is also one of the most exciting fields for the development of new treatments for glioblastoma and high-grade gliomas in both children and adults. When we think about cancer immunotherapy, one has to envision that your immune system normally detects foreign infections that invade the body and eliminates them with pretty high precision. If we have pre-existing immunity, like in the case of vaccines, this can be effective in protecting an individual for their entire lifetime against very threatening infections. When cancer arises, however, the body receives mixed signals. On the one hand, the immune system is alerted that this is something foreign, but also these come from normal cells, and we have a lot of mechanisms to protect our own cells from being attacked by the immune system. So in many ways, cancer confuses the immune system into looking both like something foreign, but also like something from our own body that needs to be repaired. If you think of this rejection versus repair, cancer really continues to grow because the signals to repair or to grow that tissue and to feed that tissue tends to override the signals that this is something foreign and should be rejected. So the goal of cancer immunotherapy is to tip the balance in favor of rejection, for the body to recognize this is a foreign invader and to eliminate it. Right now, there are 4 major approaches to doing this. One is something called cancer vaccines. Unlike vaccines that we give before a person develops an infection to protect them against infection, cancer vaccines are what we call therapeutic vaccines. These are vaccines that are given to a person that has already developed cancer, but are designed to boost the immunologic response against the person's own tumor cells so that that rejection response can take over and eliminate the invading tumor cells. Another major approach is something called adoptive T-cell therapy. This is where we take the soldiers of the immune system, called killer T cells, out of the patient's own body and then grow them to very large numbers. Oftentimes, these T cells are also armed or made more effective at recognizing the patient's own cancer, either through genetic engineering, something that we call CAR T cell therapy, where the T cells are equipped to recognize the cancer cells more effectively, or through other activation strategies that make the T cells far more effective at seeking out and destroying the cancer. Once we've generated large numbers of these killer T cells, they are given back to the patient, either delivered directly to where the tumor is growing or delivered into their intravenously or into the veins so that they can circulate throughout the body, with the hopes that now these armed killer T cells will seek out the invading cancers and eliminate them. The third major strategy in combating cancers is using a class of drugs called immune checkpoint inhibitors. This new class of treatments has arrived from the recognition that in addition to the immune system having go signals that activate it, we also have a number of stop signals or breaks that slow the immune system down or prevent the immune system from attacking our own tissues. These immune checkpoints, as they are called, are very effective at keeping us from having harmful immune responses against our own body. However, when someone develops cancer like glioblastoma or high-grade gliomas, these stop signals get turned on or amplified so that they are really preventing the immune system or holding the immune system back from attacking the cancer. And so immune checkpoint inhibitors you can think of as drugs that take the brakes off the immune system. They now allow the recognition response or the rejection response to proceed, and they remove the brakes or take the red lights off so that the immune system can proceed much more effectively in attacking cancer. This class of drugs has been pretty revolutionary for the treatment of many advanced cancers and is being actively explored for use against glioblastoma. And the last approach that I'll talk about is using viruses to actually induce an immune response against cancer. So as I mentioned previously, our immune system is really good at recognizing foreign invaders, bacteria or viruses that are truly completely foreign. And what we've learned is you can engineer viruses to infect tumor cells, and when the immune response that is awakened by that virus proceeds, you can also generate a secondary strong immune response against the cancer. These oncolytic viruses, as they're called, have been used effectively in some metastatic cancers and are also being very actively explored for their use against glioblastoma and high-grade gliomas in children. One of the challenges we face in trying to make immune therapies effective for brain cancer is that the brain is obviously an exquisitely sensitive organ. We can't really tolerate very strong immune responses inside the brain because the skull limits the amount of space that inflammation and swelling and other things that can accompany a very strong immune response would normally have space to expand in other places in the body. Because of the sensitivity of the brain, we have to be very careful in trying to induce a strong immunologic response, but not a dangerous inflammatory response that would harm normal brain tissues. Also, the brain has a number of barriers that protect it from foreign substances and from foreign infections. This blood-brain barrier, as it's called, is very effective at keeping a lot of harmful substances that can get into the rest of the body from getting into the brain. However, this same barrier can limit the effectiveness of the immune response in the brain. And so our strategies have to overcome the blood-brain barrier and allow an effective immune response to be generated within the central nervous system. Despite these limitations, we are seeing significant promise in the advancement of immunotherapy for the treatment of brain tumors. One example of that is that we've learned that we can give immune therapies sometimes before surgery, something called neoadjuvant treatment, which can activate an immune response, and then when the surgeons go in to remove the brain tumor tissue, it looks like this opens up the ability for the immune response to respond even more effectively. This is one of the more encouraging findings that we've seen in adults with advanced glioblastoma and is actively being explored now in both children and patients with glioblastoma to see if delivering immunotherapy before surgery may be a more effective strategy for generating a sustained and effective immune response. We've also seen new targets and the use of genetic engineering identify targets within brain cancer that the immune system can effectively engage. And so as we've learned more about the targets that are present in glioblastoma that can generate an effective immune response, we can develop more precise and ideally more effective and safe therapies for going after these brain tumor targets. So for me, I'm very optimistic that in the next several years, we will see certainly an expanding number of approaches to attacking glioblastoma and high-grade gliomas in children. But more importantly, I think we're learning that there can be effective and safe immune responses generated in these patients. And sometimes these can lead to very durable, long-lived clinical and immunologic responses. And so seeing those successes translated into much larger patient populations, both adults and children, I think is the real promise of immunotherapy over the next coming years.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I live in South Jersey near Philadelphia. I am a mother and a wife and a grandmother and a retired book editor. Up until 2016, I was a very active and healthy adult when I was diagnosed with a form of cancer that nobody would want to have. Glioblastoma, stage 4. I was told it was the most deadly kind of cancer there is, and I was given 14 to 18 months to live. Well, look at me now. After 3.5 years, I am still here. And I attribute that to a great extent to immunotherapy. When I first went to see my neurosurgeon who was going to remove the kiwi-sized tumor from my brain, he invited me to participate in a clinical trial. I went through a series of tests to make sure that I was a good candidate, and thank goodness I was. He then explained that he would take a piece of my live tumor and create a vaccine just for me that would identify my cancer and wipe out any cancer cells. Sounded awfully good to me, so I had surgery and then I had radiation and chemo. I am one of the lucky ones that I was able to be at the right place at the right time. The trial that I was involved in has been extended to 12 other institutions nationwide, and it's being designed for phase 2 right now and waiting FDA approval until 2021. The process is painstakingly slow, and there's very little money available, at least for the clinical trial that I was in. It was supported 100% by donations. There was no federal money involved. Immunotherapy is the new frontier in fighting cancer and has the potential of saving many of the 87,000 people who are diagnosed with brain tumors every year, many of which are children. And so GBM Awareness Day is very important to me because it brings to the limelight the importance of immunotherapy research and clinical trials like mine that have the potential to improve treatments and ultimately find a cure for GBM and other forms of cancer.
Hey everyone, this is Congressman Brian Mast from Florida. I wanted to take a minute and say a quick thank you to the National Brain Tumor Society and to all of you for your work to raise awareness for glioblastoma in my community, across the state of Florida, and in our country. Now, as our community knows all too well, glioblastoma, it's one of the most aggressive, difficult to treat, deadly brain tumors that the world has ever seen. And sadly, this disease, it takes the life of 10,000 Americans every year, including one of my friends, Mark Cunningham, who I miss. I wish he was here. Now, glioblastoma, it's caused a lot of pain in our community, which is why I recently introduced legislation to raise awareness to find new ways to treat this terrible disease. Now, it's been great having the support of so many of my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, to designate July 22 as Glioblastoma Awareness Day. It's something that I am excited about. Now, this resolution, it's about giving hope to every person in the community, every person across the country who's battling this disease, honoring the lives of those that we've tragically lost at its hands. And I'm confident that we can build on the progress that we've made to learn more about this new disease and to develop more and new treatments. Now, again, I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you for everything that you've been doing in this fight. Thank you for your strength during the fights that you've seen go on with the loved ones that you've lost or that you still have battling right now. I'm confident that together we can work together to find a cure once and for all.
I'm Robert Cavalieri, a neuro-oncologist at Baptist MD Anderson.
And I'm Patrick Regis. I'm a nurse practitioner in neuro-oncology at Baptist MD Anderson as well.
Glioblastoma is a rare condition compared to other conditions such as lung cancer and breast cancer. Consequently, it gets less attention, less support, and less funding. These are three critical elements when it comes to learning how to take care of these unfortunate patients. But the patients who have this disease and their caregivers, it doesn't matter. They're in the fight of their lives and they're desperate for solutions. Often, they come to us seeking these solutions who unfortunately suffer the same limitations that they have in general. we do not have the answers. That leads to an enormous amount of frustration on our part when we can't provide for people that we are responsible for who are desperate for solutions and for answers.
I feel like glioblastoma patients often go missed in how they can best be supported after their initial surgery. I feel that the multidisciplinary care team can help best support these patients by creating a more comprehensive plan for glioblastoma patients in general, because from a physical and occupational side of things, these patients often have a myriad of issues long term, and the awareness goes down as time goes on because we do not know what to expect in the future with how they're going to progress after treatment. I feel like with other cancers, thankfully they have more comprehensive care plans and expectations of what will happen after surgery, after treatment, but glioblastoma patients often have a lot of problems that are not predictable. And I feel like more awareness needs to be given to the support team as well as to caregivers as well and what to expect in the future.
Ultimately, awareness and knowledge will lead to better solutions to support our patients and the people responsible for caring for them, including us, the physicians, nurses, and multidisciplinary teams charged and responsible for them. We are so grateful to be a part of this, as we want to see awareness increase and therefore the funding and support that is necessary to manage this terrible problem.
Know your tumor. There are key questions every GBM and brain tumor patient should ask on their brain tumor journey. Questions like, what is the name of the type of tumor I have? Before surgery, can genetic studies be conducted on my tumor? What centers specialize in the type of tumor I have? And what clinical trials and experimental treatments are available based on my mutations and tumor type? For more information and questions like these, please visit our website section called the Brain Tumor Experience.
Hello, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to talk to you on Glioblastoma Awareness Day. What I thought I would do is go over some of the reasons why it's essential to classify brain tumors in a standardized way, and why it's very important to do that at an international level. And I'll talk about 3 organizations striving to do that. The World Health Organization, an organization called See Impact Now, and a third called ICCR, and I'll explain that alphabet soup as I go along. To begin with, it's important to realize why it's important to classify all human tumors, not just brain tumors. For example, in order to care for individual patients, to estimate their prognosis and to guide therapy, it's very important for doctors to understand that they're talking about the exact same type of tumor, to know that if chemotherapy A works in a particular type of tumor, the patient suffering from that tumor really has that exact tumor type. But there are many other reasons why it's important to classify human tumors precisely. When you conduct and interpret clinical trials on human patients with new therapies, it's very important that you're talking about the same tumor. Imagine if you did a clinical trial on one type of tumor and a patient that you then tried that therapy on didn't have that same type of tumor. That could really be disastrous. In addition, experimental studies also depend on having precise classification. Imagine if somebody discovered a new therapy based on doing analysis of cells in a dish or tumors growing in a mouse. You'd want to know that when you took those same therapies and went to human trials, you'd be dealing with the same type of tumor. When you're talking about epidemiological studies, for example, you want to know how a disease is changing across time, or you want to track reasons for why a disease may have developed, something like asbestos in certain types of lung cancer. You have to know that you're dealing with a particular type of cancer. And lastly, but not least, the allocation of resources for particular types of diseases, or by health insurers to support healthcare for particular types of diseases, really depends on an accurate classification of those diseases. And therefore, for many, many reasons, periodic revisions of tumor classifications have very many important effects on not only the care of individuals, but on population health as well. It's essential to realize that such tumor classifications must be international. Science is international, so somebody may find a potential cure in another country, and we will want to translate it to the United States. Interestingly and increasingly, clinical care is international. We've seen this recently with COVID. As potential therapies are discovered in one place, you want them to be able to be translated to the United States. And lastly, the development of novel therapies. For example, a drug company in one country develops something new for a cancer, you'd want that to be able to be translated into the United States. And so it's really essential that you have to have a common language for cancer care. And you can imagine the terrible scenario in which a therapy developed for tumor X in one country wound up being used on tumor Y in another country. The picture that I've shown here is of the famous Tower of Babel, where people can't communicate effectively with one another. So the World Health Organization recognized this decades ago and have been producing classifications of tumors really since the 1960s. These are the fronts of the brain tumor classifications. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in the 2001 and then to have directed the 2007 and 2016 classifications. So these set a common vocabulary for understanding these tumors around the world. For each of these classifications, there are many challenges that have to be addressed. I'm not going to go into them in detail, but I'll just mention the general challenges involve things like, how often should you revise them? How much do you try to put tumors together or split them apart? When new technology comes along, do you try to use the most cutting-edge technology, or do you use technologies that are available around the world? What is the process of establishing a new classification? How democratic versus oligarchic is it? There are also specific challenges for each new classification. How do you recognize new entities? How do you phase out obsolete ones? How does the structure of a classification change? How do scientific and medical advances change terminology? And these are all pretty vexing questions that we've had to deal with a lot as we've developed scientific insights over the last few years. One of the challenges that you encounter is getting everyone together to address all of these problems at a regular set of intervals. And the WHO has been able to do this over many decades. But if you look at the dates here, you'll see that typically WHO classifications come out roughly once every 7 to 10 or 14 years or so. So they don't come out very quickly. And what we recognized a number of years ago after the 2016 WHO classification was that the field was moving so quickly, we needed another organization, which we've given the name of C-Impact Now, the Consortium to Inform Molecular and Practical Approaches to CNS Tumor Taxonomy or Classification. This group has risen up to address changes in between the World Health Organization classifications. This has been a very active international group over the last 4 years and has met at regular intervals to update classifications. Just to give you a scope of the amount of people and countries involved, these are people from all over the world who have gotten together in different working committees with C-Impact just over the last 4 years. And they've been very busy. We've issued 7 practical updates on brain tumor classification, as well as a number of summary articles. And it's safe to say that all of these will be used extensively in the next World Health Organization classification, but the field didn't have to wait for the next World Health Organization classification to go ahead with making progress. So what I've told you about is the World Health Organization and See Impact Now, but there's still a problem in that even though the words used are now the same, how you put those words together is still a challenge. So in other words, you can have the same words, but how do you form a sentence? And in the world of clinical oncology, how do you form a report that's the same around the world? And so that brings up ICCR, which is the International Collaboration on Cancer Reporting, which is an international group that has produced what we call data sets that are standardized and that can be used to generate reports so that the information in the reports is the same around the world. These recommendations have just been published this past February, just 4 months ago, and they're also available online for you to look at and download the standard forms that we encourage use. And this is just an excerpt from one of those forms. This too, as you see here, is an international collaboration, and as I've highlighted in red, is also dependent on the World Health Organization for it to continue. So what I've hopefully done in the last few minutes is told you about the World Health Organization, See Impact Now, and the ICCR, and how all of these have worked together over the last decade or so to generate a common language for talking about brain tumors around the world that will help the development of new therapies for brain tumors for our patients in the United States, as well as help oncologists around the United States manage the patients that we have with brain tumors. I hope what I've impressed upon you is the essential nature of the international collaboration and how important it is to have these backbone organizations like the WHO, See Impact, and ICCR, and how beneficial they are to the management of brain tumor patients in the United States. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention and for the work that you're doing to help brain tumor patients.
My name is Mary Lovely, and I am a doctorally prepared brain tumor nurse. For over 30 years, I have worked closely with brain tumor patients and their families as a neurological nurse, a clinical specialist, a research investigator, and patient advocate. Recently, I have had the pleasure of rejoining the National Brain Tumor Society team as patient navigator. Through our personalized support and navigation program, we work to ensure that glioblastoma patients and their care partners receive individualized attention, support, and information. We respond to outreach from the glioblastoma community at every stage of diagnosis, whether it be at the very beginning when deciding about surgery and treatments, or survivorship issues, or end of life. As patient navigators, my goals are to guide patients and care partners to quality, unbiased information about treatment, symptom management, and social services. To listen and offer support to members of the community. To empower those reaching out for more help by providing them with key tools and opportunities for their brain tumor journey. And to ensure patients and care partners have timely, accessible information by using our key questions for each stage of diagnosis to help them make informed decisions about their care. Glioblastoma Awareness Day serves as an important reminder of the support and resources that patients and families need as they face such a difficult diagnosis. It is an honor for me to be part of Glioblastoma Day, but mostly it's an honor for me to be able to take care of patients and families as they go through their glioblastoma journey. If you would like some help through our patient Navigator program, please contact me through patientnavigator@braintumor.org. Thank you.
National Brain Tumor Society's personalized support and navigation program ensures patients and care partners receive individualized attention, support, and information. To get in touch with our patient navigator, please email us at patientnavigator@braintumor.org.
Hello, my name is Ranjit Bindra. I'm a professor in the Department of Therapeutic Radiology at the Yale School of Medicine, and I'm a co-director of Yale's Brain Tumor Center. I'm very excited to be able to speak to you all on GBM Awareness Day, and I thank you all for joining us. Today, I will briefly highlight the exciting landscape and horizon of GBM therapeutics development. But first, who am I? I span multiple realms from the bench to the bedside at Yale. In the basic science world, I'm the PI of an NIH-funded DNA repair lab with a major focus on oncology synthetic lethal drug screens. In the clinical world, I'm an adult and pediatric brain tumor radiation oncologist, and I run phase 1 and 2 clinical trials in this space. In the biotech world, I'm an active biotechnology entrepreneur, having started several companies, including those that are shown here in this slide. Here's an example of how we translate from the bench to the bedside in our group. A few years back, we made an exciting discovery that tumor-associated oncometabolites induce DNA repair defects, also known as a BRCA state, that confers PARP inhibitor sensitivity. We initially published this work around mutant IDH1 in Science Translational Medicine, followed by a study in Nature Genetics, and then more recently we teased out the molecular mechanism for this interaction. We published this in Nature. We've been able to rapidly translate this work into clinical trials, namely for tumors shown in red, important for today. We're now actively reverse translating by taking clinical specimens from these studies and bringing them back to the lab to understand the molecular interactions to help us design better clinical trials in the future. With that background, I'd like to tell you about why I'm excited about what lies ahead for GBM research. I'd also like to tell you about the emerging priority to address the blood-brain barrier for therapeutics development in GBM. And I would like to highlight the importance of preclinical research in GBM therapeutics development. I'll then tell you about an exciting emerging therapeutic opportunity to target DNA repair in GBM, and we'll end with a few words on what you can do to support GBM research. Every day we continue to learn more about the enormous complexity of GBM. However, we've learned so much already, and in recent years, this growth has been exponential. The first half of the 20th century, we simply called these brain tumors. In the second half of the 20th century, we moved to a histologic diagnosis that many of you know called glioblastoma multiforme. However, it wasn't until 2008 that we got one of our first key molecular portraits of GBM, courtesy of the TCGA. In the last 10 years, we've now had ultra-high resolution images of molecular GBM, like the one shown here. As we understand the targets in their genomic context, I sincerely believe that new therapeutic options are likely to emerge which will improve patient outcomes for this devastating cancer. Next, I would like to talk to you about the emerging priority to address the blood-brain barrier in therapeutics development. Many of you may not know that 98% of drugs actually do not penetrate the CNS, and that's because of the blood-brain barrier. Yet 98% of trials don't consider this problem. And the analogy here is throwing a ball over a brick wall and expecting to hit its target, or shooting an arrow at a target blindfolded. You can imagine this would be very difficult and success rates would be very low. We're now addressing this. This is an example of a working paper from a workshop from the American Brain Tumor Consortium last year, in which we discussed the major problem of the blood-brain barrier and how to address it. We now understand that it's important to understand whether a drug penetrates the CNS and whether those levels are sufficiently high in the tumor and whether those levels in the tumor actually engage their targets. In 2020 and beyond, we're addressing the problem of the blood-brain barrier by many approaches, and this is very exciting for us. Researchers in the laboratory are modeling drug levels in tumor tissue in the brain in 2 dimensions, like the study shown here. And we now have many more phase 0 trials where patients get a drug, a biopsy of their brain tumor, and we try to understand whether drug is actually in their tumors. Drugs are now being designed specifically for CNS penetration, like the one shown here. Other folks are looking at ways to directly inject drugs into the brain to bypass the blood-brain barrier, such as convection-enhanced delivery, shown here. Our group and others are very excited about nanoparticle formulations, which essentially are ultra tiny particles that can be delivered directly into the brain for sustained release of drug into the brain tumor and the tumor microenvironment. Next, I'd like to highlight the importance of preclinical research and GBM therapeutics development. It's important to realize that basic science insights lead to key protein targets, which then lead to testing of drugs in vitro in the laboratory, followed by in vivo validation in small animals, which then leads to clinical trials. Many of these clinical trial results are then reverse translated back into basic science insights, and the cycle begins again. It's important to know that clinical trials that we all know of, like the STOOP trial, were based on very, very important discoveries in the laboratory shown here. So this work in the laboratory is essential for the development of the next therapeutics that will be used for GBM. And we cannot do this work without the support of foundations, the NIH, and many other groups. Next, I'd like to tell you about an exciting emerging therapeutic opportunity to target DNA repair in GBM. For this topic, let's first talk about scale. It's important to know that about 10,000 cancer cells can fit on the head of a pin. Inside each one of those cells is a smaller compartment called the nucleus. Inside that nucleus are over 3 billion bases of DNA. And this DNA is constantly being damaged in GBM tumor cells. This is the type of damage that these cells encounter. And there are multiple DNA repair pathways shown here, which we call the DNA damage response. Intriguingly, many of these pathways are broken or disrupted in GBM. And we believe this represents a very novel opportunity that is yet to be tapped to develop new therapeutics which target these pathways. There are a number of small molecule DDR inhibitors that are being used in tumors outside of the brain, and some of those targets are shown here. We believe that we can combine these DNA repair inhibitors with clinically relevant DNA damaging agents to come up with completely new therapeutic approaches to treat these tumors. This is an emerging team science initiative being sponsored by the National Brain Tumor Society, and you'll be hearing much more about this in the future. Finally, I'd like to spend a little bit of time about what you can do to support GBM research. It's important to lobby and advocate for GBM funding with events like the one today. We encourage participation in fundraisers and to donate whatever you can to our cause. And finally, it's important to learn about GBM and to spread the word. Speak to your friends and your colleagues. Read the stories of patients that are suffering from these tumors. And learn more at the website shown in the bottom right here. With that, I'd like to thank all the folks that work in my laboratory on this devastating disease, GBM. More importantly, a special thank you to patients and their families, advocates of brain tumor research, the NIH and other government funding agencies, and the NBTS and other research donors. These are examples of folks that fund our laboratory that make our research possible. Finally, email me anytime if you have questions about this talk or the work that we do. Follow us on Twitter to see what we're up to, and check out our lab to learn more about our research. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Hi, my name is Lynn, and I'm from Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. My GBM diagnosis and surgery were about 2.5 years ago. About a month after the 6 weeks of chemo and radiation, I started to wear the device that sends tumor treating fields into my brain. This device disrupts cancer-causing cell division. I still wear this device as it has been very effective for me. From the beginning of my diagnosis as a GBM patient, I believed that I am not a statistic. I don't do research online about my diagnosis, but rather focus my energies on living my life and staying positive. Before the pandemic hit, I danced regularly, meditated, attended classes and theater performances, played mahjong, worked out with a personal trainer, traveled, and spent time with my family and friends. I still do most of the above, however virtually. To stay positive, I still meditate. I delve more deeply into my spirituality, and I surround myself with positive people. I also connect regularly with 2 different brain tumor support groups. I enjoy the sharing of common experiences. Before the pandemic, dancing and traveling were the 2 things that helped me to forget that I am living with GBM. I'm happy to be a part of the National Brain Tumor Society GBM Day to create awareness and to remind my fellow community members to live their lives and stay positive. Thank you.
Thank you to the following sponsors for supporting National Brain Tumor Society's GBM Awareness Day event.
Novacure is proud to support the brain cancer community's efforts to raise awareness for glioblastoma on the second annual GBM Awareness Day. Together with our patients, we strive to extend survival in some of the most aggressive forms of cancer by supporting patients on our approved therapy and by advancing our clinical trial efforts. We thank NBTS for spearheading GBM Awareness Day activities and for the bipartisan effort for sponsoring the resolution to designate today as GBM Awareness Day.
This portion of Glioblastoma Awareness Day is brought to you by Novacure.
I am David Kaki, and I'm one of the neuro-oncologists at the Medical University of South Carolina Hollings Cancer Center. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to say a few words for the 2020 Glioblastoma Awareness Day. As most of you are aware, glioblastoma is a rare disease when compared to more common tumor types. But in clinical day, I see the impact that this disease has on patients and their families. This is a disease that affects patients from across all walks of life, across socioeconomic classes, gender, and age. Over the last few years, we have made inroads in understanding the biology of the disease, but clearly much more needs to be done. I believe that we would be able to change the course of the disease only if we all collaborate together to bring about this change. As an example of this, recently at MUSC we have opened the GBM Agile trial that involved a number of parties to get this off the ground. This involves an innovative clinical trial design with an idea to lower the cost, time, and number of patients required to evaluate potentially new treatments for glioblastoma. I believe that more of this approach is needed if we think we're going to make a change and improve the outcomes for our patients. So thank you once again, and I look forward to working with all those involved to bring change and improve outcomes for our patients and their families.
Taking care of patients with brain and spinal cancer involves listening to the patient and taking care of the patient as a whole. Our team takes care of patients with both tumors that start in the brain or primary brain tumors and metastatic disease to the brain. Having cancer in the central nervous system means patients may not only have to deal with the rigors of traditional cancer treatment, such as surgery, radiation therapy, and chemotherapy, but also dealing with potential neurologic deficits such as difficulty with movement, speech, and thinking. It can even affect someone's identity. This requires treatment from a broad array of clinicians working together in a team approach to patient-centered care. We feel that this is essential. Neuro-oncology is a rapidly changing field in cancer care, and so it's a really exciting one in which to work. By its nature, oncology changes rapidly. By being a part of a National Cancer Institute designated cancer center, we can participate in bringing those treatments to patients quickly. Our team utilizes numerous clinical trials for patients with primary brain tumors with the aim of improving treatments which we already know to be effective. Much of cancer care is starting to pivot away from traditional chemotherapy toward manipulation of the immune system, so-called immunotherapies. This includes clinical trials involving vaccine-based treatments as well as other medicines that unmask the cancer to the immune system's innate surveillance capabilities. By this token, we are making outcomes possible for patients that just a few years ago may have been thought impossible. However, in order to keep these innovations moving along in the right direction, Events such as the National Brain Tumor Society's Glioblastoma Awareness Day are crucial. Involvement of patients, their families and advocates, the research community, government, and the public are essential to moving the field forward. We look forward to building on our progress as a community. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aja Indome. I am a neurosurgeon scientist. I currently work at the NIH, and I am here to give you an update on why we need to continue to aggressively fund neurosurgical trials and neurosurgical research so that we can improve outcomes for glioblastoma patients in the future. I'm also going to give you an update on how we make sure that the surgery we do for glioblastoma patients is safe and effective. My only disclosure for this talk is that I'm receiving drug-only support for an innovative clinical trial that I've been running at the National Institutes of Health for the past several years. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir here when I tell you about what glioblastoma is, but it's a terrible lesion. It's a tumor that comes from the brain itself. It's invasive. Survival, even with our best treatment, with good resection, radiation, and chemotherapy, typically can range somewhere in the order of 14 months. Though that may have increased in recent years with better surgical techniques, radiation and chemotherapy. And so we need to do better treatment for these lesions, and that includes a better surgery. First, I want to give a couple notes on reasons why we do surgery. One, we want to find out what to treat. We sometimes might not know whether it's a benign tumor or malignant tumor or what grade it is. One is to cure the disease for benign lesions. In other cases, we want to safely reduce the amount of disease, reduce the amount of disease that needs to be treated with radiation and chemotherapy. And also for clinical trials, to either determine if someone's eligible for the trial, to figure out the outcome of the trial, or sometimes surgery is the intervention itself. With regards to timing of surgery, and this is critical, most resections of brain tumors are not emergencies. The vast majority truly do not need to go emergently to the operating room within 24 hours. In most cases, there are medications we can use to stabilize a patient, and then there is time to seek a referral to a high-volume center. Studies have shown that volume is extremely important in neurosurgery. When I talk about volume, it means the number of times that a neurosurgeon is doing a specific surgery or a specific type of surgery. Surgeons who specialize and do one type of surgery predominantly are more likely to be more up-to-date on the techniques that are needed and have better outcomes. For part of my talk, I do want to spend some time going over some of the techniques that a neurosurgical oncologist or a neurosurgeon who specializes in the removal of brain tumors might use to make sure that your surgery is as safe as possible. This includes using things like frameless stereotactic neuronavigation, which is essentially a GPS for the brain, where we're able to tell where on your MRI we are within the head by using some infrared trackers that tell us where the surface of the brain is and where our pointer is within the brain. That also includes the use of neuromonitoring, where we might perform cortical mapping, where the surface of the brain, we use electrical stimulation to map out where critical functions are located on the surface of the brain so that we avoid them. And subcortical mapping, where we do the same thing in the deep white matter tracts of the brain that are kind of the wires that connect the cortex to the rest of the body. To get updated imaging during surgery, surgeons will often use intraoperative ultrasound, which is just like it sounds, just like a baby ultrasound or anything else. We can use ultrasound waves to detect lesions within the brain and see where they might have moved during our resection. In planning for a surgery, we may use things like diffusion tensor imaging, where we are able to map out where the white matter tracts in the brain lie so that we can do a safer resection when we actually get to the operating room. Some centers, like the National Institutes of Health, actually use things like intraoperative MRI, where we actually take patients into an MRI during the operation to see what tumor might be left and still need to be resected. And some of you may have seen some of the viral videos of musicians and others who are playing or singing during an operation, and that's during an awake craniotomy, where the patient is actually only very lightly sedated, their scalp is numbed up, and then we stimulate the brain at key moments during the surgery to see if they can still complete key tasks like speaking or playing a musical instrument, so we make sure that we don't harm that activity. Recently in the United States, we just got FDA approval for a technique that by giving an oral drug to patients, there's an accumulation of a fluorescent protein in the patient's tumor that we can see under a special blue light, such that the tumor glows pink, which is called 5-ALA. And we've recently started using this at the NIH, and many other neurosurgical centers have as well, so we can better find tumors below the surface of the brain. When we talk about using neurosurgical research to cure brain tumors, our ultimate goal is essentially to make major brain tumor surgery obsolete. And how can we accomplish that goal? I feel that my role is to perform smart, innovative clinical trials so we can learn as much as possible about how our drugs are working in tumors, so that we essentially have to stop taking them out because we have treatments that are so effective. Let me give you an example from my clinical practice that shows why I think surgery is so important at this time. So when we give immunotherapy these days, what we find is that on the MRI, after a patient's been treated with immune therapeutic, we often are faced with scans like these where we see a bright lesion on the scan, meaning that it's enhancing with contrast, but we don't know whether the tumor has come back or whether we're actually seeing a response to the immune therapy. What we found is that sometimes, as you can see on the left slide in patient 1, we have a profound immune infiltration with tons of immune cells that are actively reacting to the tumor, whereas in other patients, that lesion represents a recurrent tumor that needs to be treated in a different way. Right now, we can't make these sorts of decisions without actually seeing what the tissue looks like when we do surgery. My research is trying to find out how we can use other techniques to test whether our immune therapeutics are having an effect in the brain. One of those is by the use of cytokines. Cytokines are proteins that the immune system uses to communicate with each other. And by measuring these cytokines, we might be able to tell whether there's an active inflammatory process in the brain or not. My current trial at the NIH uses these small tubes called microdialysis catheters that allow us to measure over time the changes in these communication proteins, these cytokines that the immune system uses, so that we can tell whether a drug that we give into the bloodstream is actually causing the immune system to be more active within the brain without doing major surgeries. In this study, patients first have a biopsy where we confirm that the tumor has come back. Again, this is critical because sometimes it's very difficult to tell whether a patient is actually responding to their previous treatment or has a recurrence of a tumor that needs to be treated. Then we place one of these small microdialysis tubes into the brain. And you can see that in the lower left side. The white part is the part that actually allows the cytokines to be measured. Again, those proteins that can tell us whether the immune system is active. This is a CAT scan that shows that the catheter is in place. On day 3, we give one drug of one dose of the patient of the immune therapeutic, and then on day 8, we take the patient's tumor out. In this way, we have tissue from before and after treatment with the drug, and we're also able to measure the cytokines using the microdialysis catheter. And this could give us an early signal that this patient will have a good response to immune therapy. My hope, as I hope I've explained today, is that when we're done doing research like this and we are able to tell how drugs are working in the brain, patients won't need anything more than this stereotactic biopsy here, where we make a decision about 2 or 3 millimeters and are able to tell what type of lesion a patient has, and then be able to dictate what the best treatment for that patient is. We're not there yet, but that's our goal. It's going to take some more surgery in the meantime to get there, but our hope is that with your support, the right funding and the right research, we can get to our ultimate goal of curing brain tumors. And with that, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation today for Glioblastoma Awareness Day. It is my hope that ultimately, like I said, we'll be able to use surgery in a smart way to cure glioblastoma. Hope you have a great, productive rest of your day. If you want to reach me, I can be found online on social media on Twitter at EKN as in Nancy, DUOM as in Mary, as well as on Instagram. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you have, and I'm always willing to help out with a teleconsult or whatever I can do to help patients who may be faced with glioblastoma. So best wishes to you all. Thank you to the National Brain Tumor Society for inviting me to give this talk. I have the honor to serve on the board of directors for the National Brain Tumor Society, where I'm able to provide an outlook on what research we need to pursue for the cure of glioblastoma from a neurosurgeon's perspective, as someone who has dedicated their career to fighting these tumors. So again, thank you to NBTS for putting this together. Thank you all for participating, and let's get out there and get to our goal. Take care, everyone.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Garcia. I'm a neuro-oncology nurse navigator at the Barrow Neurological Institute and the Ivy Brain Tumor Center in Phoenix, Arizona. My role as a neuro-oncology nurse navigator basically consists of a lot of education and support. I think education is very important after a GBM diagnosis because there's a lot to know and it's difficult to find good information sometimes. So my role starts at the very beginning of diagnosis. I talk to people about what the surgical aspect looks like, work them through recovery, and then as we get pathology information, I talk to them about what that means. And then we work them into their treatment plan and then onto survivorship. So I find working with the GBM population very rewarding because no two patients are exactly the same. And if I can provide a little bit of hope with the support that I bring and the options that we talk about, then I feel I've done a good job at the end of the day. So the GBM Awareness Day, I think, is extremely important because this is a tough diagnosis and we don't have a lot of great treatment options for it. And I think the more that we bring awareness to this disease, the more support we can get behind it, the more funding we can get, and the closer we can get to finding a cure for this. So, I feel very fortunate to be a part of this event for the National Brain Tumor Society. And, it gives me an opportunity to have my voice heard where I know a lot of other people would like to be in this position. So if I have one message that I can give to you, well, it might be a couple messages, but I would say get involved in your community. There are a lot of community events that go on. There are national events that go on. But don't be afraid to get out there and be involved. When you do this, is sometimes you bring something home for yourself, is that you find a community of people that support you through this as well. So I would say get out, be involved. Remember that there are people that are out there that are fighting for you, such as me and the other folks at our institution. And, one day we will find a cure.
Hi, I'm Martha McSally, and I wanted to take a moment to recognize and commemorate this year's Glioblastoma Awareness Day. Glioblastoma is a ruthless and terrible brain cancer that's taken way too many American lives, including Arizona's own Senator John McCain. I'm inspired by people like Catherine Ivy, who lost her husband, Ben, to this terrible disease. And she turned her grief into action, searched the world over for a place to invest and partner to combat this deadly disease. And she found it right here in Arizona at the Barrow Neurological Center. And there they're doing cutting-edge research and clinical trials that are really making a difference. I am committed to ensuring that we remove barriers, continue investment, and stop red tape so more innovations like this can happen. I was blessed to visit the Ivy Center and see what they're doing. And together with efforts like that, we will defeat glioblastoma once and for all. I want to thank the National Brain Tumor Society for raising awareness and bringing hope to patients and families all across the country.
Hello, my name is Rachel Kittleson, and I'm the Director of Community Relations at the National Brain Tumor Society. And I oversee NBTS Connections, which encompasses our community-driven programs dedicated to bringing brain tumor patients and loved ones together, connecting not only to each other, but also to resources and support services that improve overall care and quality of life. Our goal is to provide brain tumor patients with the support, education, and resources they need to become empowered self-advocates and feel prepared as they navigate their brain tumor journey. Our Patient and Caregiver Toolkit provides access to a comprehensive hub of important resources for the brain tumor community, including the NBTS Brain Tumor Experience Portal, Clinical Trial Finder, telehealth resources, and mental health and well-being resources. Our personalized support and navigation program connects patients and care partners with a medical professional on our staff who provides timely, individualized information and guidance so patients can make the most informed decisions possible regarding their treatment and care options. Brain Tumor Support Conversations is a platform for virtual, peer-to-peer support and community engagement, designed and facilitated by a brain tumor patient and volunteer caregiver, bringing together people with direct brain tumor experience to share perspectives, support, and insights. We are continuing to build our hospital and healthcare provider outreach to partner with hospitals and healthcare providers to put important educational materials and resources in the hands of patients throughout the country. And we are working on our innovation series to stream webinars, videos, and podcasts featuring information on key advances, state-of-the-art technologies, and issues in the current brain tumor landscape. Personally, I also have a daughter who passed from GBM in 2017 at the age of 15, and I am truly proud to contribute to NBTS and help to bring these vital programs to our patients and their care partners and families in the brain tumor community. Thank you.
National Brain Tumor Society's Connections program is putting patients first and includes personalized support and navigation, brain tumor support conversations, patient and caregiver toolkit, hospital and healthcare outreach, and our innovation series. For more information, please visit braintumor.org, or you can contact us at patientnavigator@braintumor.org. Thank you to the following sponsors for supporting National Brain Tumor Society's GBM Awareness Day event.
Hello, my name's Steve Adams, and this is my wife Jillian. We're from Hudson, New Hampshire, and I am a GBM fighter.
For a few years before Steve's diagnosed, about a year and a half to 2 years, he had some dizzy spells, some numbness, some headaches pretty frequently day to day. It got so bad one day he talked to his PCP and said, "I'd like to get a CAT scan. Something doesn't feel right." They agreed. They did a CAT scan, and while he was in for the CAT scan, they found a large mass. They even called an ambulance while he was in. And rushed him right to the hospital from there because they said he needed to get to a higher level of care. Once we arrived at LGH, they looked at the scans with their neurology team and the ER doctors, and they said, "You guys got to go to Boston." So they sent us to Tufts that night, and by 10 a.m. the next day, Steve was going in for surgery. That was on August 17th of 2017, and he's still going strong. They went in for a biopsy. They did some tumor debulking while they were in there. He went into recovery shortly after. He had a pretty smooth recovery. And then we were set up with the team. We started standard of care, which was chemo and radiation. He did that. Once he finished that, he got a week off, and then he started Optune, which is the electrical fields that people wear on their heads to help with the tumor growth. And we've done our best to remain positive. Steve's had some hard days, some better than others, but he's always remained positive and happy. He's never let anything get him down. GBM's had a huge impact on our family. You know, we continue to live our lives to the fullest. Steve was only 31. I was only 28 when he was diagnosed. We had just sold our first townhouse. We were living with my mom while we were actively house searching. And then GBM hit us. We had to make some hard, fast decisions. You know, we still wanted to grow our family. Rachel was only 10 at the time, and our doctors at Tufts helped us make it happen. We decided to stay at my mom's house for the foreseeable future. We had some things we needed to get done. I was finishing grad school and working full time. Steve had just gone back to work. We had started the IVF process so we could grow our family. We did buy a new home this past year. We welcomed our son in June of 2019. We're now a family of 4. Hasn't been easy trying to make everything happen. We've had our ups and our downs, but we've never felt alone. We've always had our family and friends there to help us.
GBM Awareness Day is important to us. We need to get the word out to make more knowledgeable about the GBM to the public so we can all work together as a community and raise more money for the research. Over the last few years, not much has changed in terms of the standard of care treatments. So we're happy to be a part of the National Brain Tumor Society on GBM Awareness Day and feel honored to share our story. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
watching.
guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.
My name is Veronica DeRosa, and I'm a pediatric nurse case coordinator at Chuck Children's Hospital in Orange County, California. I am part of the neuro-oncology team that supports families that are diagnosed with brain tumors, including glioblastoma. What a case coordinator does is we help families navigate through the complex medical system. When I hear that we have a child with a new diagnosis of glioblastoma, my heart drops. I know that this means this family's journey will be heartbreaking, and there'll be a series of tragic conversations starting with the new diagnosis conference where we watch the first wave of grief hit the family. We try to support the family emotionally and can only offer standard treatment without a promise of a cure. The treatment's like a roller coaster ride, every 3-month scans, praying that everything is stable, anxiety and fear running high, never knowing when you'll hear those words. It's progressed. Dad and moms on the computer searching for treatments. Their search is finding that there are not many studies out there, study slots are limited, or their child isn't eligible because they have not progressed yet. If they could just buy more time for a new treatment to be proposed or a clinical trial to open up, then when they see signs that it's back, headaches, vision changes, weakness, unsteady gait, the treatment isn't working anymore, the tragic conversations get closer and closer together until you can't deny it anymore. The worst fear they have ever imagined is here. They must decide on what's best for their dying child. Quality of life with memory making, or flying around the country looking for the next treatment that could possibly work. How can you choose? These decisions continue to haunt these families the rest of their lives. I see how GBM can destroy the lives of our families. They have gone through one of the most traumatic events anyone could ever go through, and there's nothing set up in our society to support them. Awareness can bring light to this tragedy and in turn can bring change and support to not only find a cure for GBM, but to begin to acknowledge the grief these families go through. I feel that it's important to be a part of the National Brain Tumor Society so that I can share the countless stories that I am witness to. The human experience of suffering, grief, loss, and love that cancer parents go through along with their healthcare provider. I made a promise to myself and our bereaved families that we would continue to say their child's name and share their stories by bringing awareness to pediatric brain tumors and to bring awareness to the grief that they are going through. As Easton's dad said to me a few months after Easton passed away, I still have too much left to give because he wishes he could still give it to his son, and I'm sure other families echo the same sentiment. We need to know that these children were here in this world. Their stories were real. We should honor them by acting now and supporting groups like NBTS. Write your local congressman to help them open their eyes that children are dying and American families are being destroyed. Open up your hearts and provide and support in any way. United with love for these children. Unidos con amor.
My name is Rich Paceman. I'm the lead state advocate for Massachusetts, and I'm a 15-year brain tumor survivor. But I'm also one of 4 people in my family to be diagnosed with a brain tumor. I advocate for them. I advocate for my kids. I advocate for everyone. So if you want to become an advocate, it's easy. All you have to do is text the word brain tumor to 52886. It's simple, and it will make you feel wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Robert Berger, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the National Brain Tumor Society. It's truly an honor to have you all here today, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of and being supporting of our second annual GBM Awareness Day. For those of you who don't know my story, my family has been involved with brain tumors for the last 30 years. In 1988, my cousin Seth Feldman, who I was extremely close with, died of a glioblastoma. It was absolutely devastating for me, and even to this day, it's very difficult for me to talk about. Seth was 2 years younger than me, and he was diagnosed while he was in his sophomore year of high school. He had his whole life ahead of him. He had everything going for him. He had his dreams of both playing varsity high school football and attending Dartmouth College. Despite his terminal diagnosis, he was able to achieve both goals which was a true testament to his bravery. He pushed himself beyond what others would do in his condition to be a varsity football field goal kicker and also to make it to Dartmouth for the first semester of his freshman year. He was inspiring to so many, and he had so much promise at a young age, but his life was tragically cut short just 5 days before his 18th birthday. Despite his youth, he had amazing wisdom beyond his years. And as his health began to decline significantly, Seth made his mother promise to do everything possible so that someday other families wouldn't have to go through what his family had gone through. It was all about using his pain to help others. So here we are. As a result, Seth's parents, my Aunt Bonnie and Uncle Sid Feldman, followed through on the promise they'd made to their son. Theirs was a vision shared by Seth's doctor, Dr. Stephen Salmon of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and with the help of Richard and Judy Ross, plus a small group of very dedicated group of Boston medical advisors, an equally passionate board of directors, some of whom were Seth's friends, the Feldman started what eventually would become the National Brain Tumor Society. It was incredibly challenging back then when they started things over 30 years ago, where there were not many professionals interested in looking at the problem of a glioblastoma. The world wasn't where we are today, and getting the necessary attention for brain tumors was a constant uphill battle. What had now become the Brain Tumor Society, infused by a growing number of similarly affected and inspired families, created a way to support and fund necessary research in the fight against brain tumors. While they built the Brain Tumor Society from the ground up, the organization gained a great deal of momentum and support from the brain tumor community throughout the world. And while identifying and collaborating with similarly interested organizations, they eventually merged with the National Brain Tumor Foundation to become the National Brain Tumor Society. Now, NBTS has become a voice for many hundreds of thousands of brain tumor-affected individuals, families, and professionals everywhere. Frankly, it's truly amazing. And now, on this day, our second annual Glioblastoma Awareness Day, I know that we are honoring Seth's legacy and the legacy of all the warriors in the fight against this unrelenting disease. They are our inspiration. They are the driving force behind this special monumental day, and I am forever grateful for their legacy. I am also extremely thankful to the bipartisan members of Congress and government officials who have been working diligently to support the creation of GBM Awareness Day. Today is the day we pause to honor Seth Feldman and everyone else whose life has been touched by a brain tumor. I would be remiss without saying some very important thank yous to the many people that made today possible. First, a huge thank you goes to the amazing team at the National Brain Tumor Society. The time and energy and effort that you all put into everything is truly amazing. Without your tireless work and advocacy efforts, today would never have happened. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You all rock. I also want to say thank you to each and every one of the members of Congress and their staff, especially their staff, who we all know are behind the congressmen and senators, for their commitment and leadership on this resolution and making this day possible. A very special thank you goes to Richard Perry, who has been a driving force behind this day. Richard, you're truly an unsung hero, and we are so appreciative of your help and your dedication to our cause. The National Brain Tumor Society is committed to working with the champions of Congress to create real solutions in funding the research and breakthrough needed so desperately by patients and families to create cures and greatly improve the quality of life. Today, we all have a tremendous opportunity to honor, act, and learn. To the many that are suffering or who have suffered a brain tumor, GBM Awareness Day is every day, and we need your help to do more. No gesture is too small, whether it be sharing our message on social media, sending a message to your member of Congress, or funding research to create change so desperately needed by patients and families. While we have come a long way since the Feldmans put us on the map to start the National Brain Tumor Society so many years ago, there has never been a more encouraging time as we are on the cusp of so much amazing research and science. Seth Feldman would be so proud of all of us for where we have come for now. But we still have a long way to go to achieve our goal, and we will not stop until we find a cure and rid the world of brain tumors once and for all. I want everyone to know that the National Brain Tumor Society is here for you. I want to thank the patients, care partners, researchers, and providers who all shared the reality in this morning's broadcast. It was incredibly moving, and I hope you were able to listen in on it. But there's so much more to come. So please be sure to tune into our virtual town hall meeting at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's titled Defeating GBM, and I hope you all continue to listen in our program and honor, learn, and act on this GBM Awareness Day. And finally, I encourage everyone to take a second and check out our website, which is www.braintumor.org, and learn more about the National Brain Tumor Society and how you can get involved. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you all at our town hall meeting starting at 12 o'clock p.m.